Welcome to TzuChi This Week. I'm Dennis Wu. It's good to have you with us. On Friday, TzuChi's disaster survey team in Japan drove for 8 hours from Tokyo to arrive in Iwate Prefecture's Kamaishi. Around the world, people continue to trust Tzu Chi with their donations for Japan disaster relief. And over 1,000 people in Cupertino, California, got a chance to know Dharma Master Jianzhen through screenings of the Dai animated film. In Japan, Tzu Chi disaster survey team set off on a 4-day trip to hard-hit Iwate Prefecture once again. The 8-hour drive took the volunteers to Kamaishi, where over 600 perished, 650 remain missing, and more than 4,000 are in emergency shelters. The government hopes to have 5,000 prefab homes ready in 2 months. In the meantime, Tzu Chi will do everything it can to help ease the suffering of the disaster victims.
In Japan, Tzu Chi volunteers have once again left their office in Tokyo to head to Kamaishi in Iwate Prefecture. During the 8-hour drive, they keep an eye on the radiation level.
0.7, 0.8, 0.658. Where we're heading now is towards the northeast, which is in the direction of Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant.
As a precaution, the volunteers put on N95 surgical masks until the radiation reading reaches a safe level. This is the survey team's second trip to Iwate Prefecture. Debris is everywhere in this once bustling market street.
This used to be their city center. Most of the buildings were built of steel reinforced concrete. They weren't very tall. Here, the first floor of all structures has taken a lot of damage. Survivors are all in emergency shelters.
Those who survived will never be able to forget the force of the tsunami.
The water came and just threw everything in its path way up high into the air, along with a cloud of dust, and just washed over here.
A survivor describes the disaster in vivid details to the volunteers. Surprisingly, his wife happens to be a Taiwanese who married to Japan some 20 years ago. The photos in this album are what is left of their past.
Right now I'm staying with my husband's relatives, so I told him to bring over anything he finds of mine.
Meeting someone from one's hometown is always a pleasant surprise. The survey team also takes time to learn about the design and the building progress of the government's prefab homes.
This is called 2DK, which means 2 bedrooms, a dining room, and a kitchen. Here's the living room. I think this prefab home is quite nice. However, it is built with 6 units in a row. Therefore, only the 2 units on either end will have better circulation.
Approximately in 2 months' time, 5,000 prefabs should be completed and ready to move into. In this unprecedented disaster, the number of people in need may be overwhelming. However, as the government expedites its recovery effort, Tzu Chi vows to do its part as well, one step at a time.
As Japan struggles through its worst natural disaster on record, donations, relief packages, and prayers are being sent from around the world. Despite being oceans apart, children in Canada and Malaysia donated their savings through Tzu Chi. Street soliciting campaigns also are taking place in the Dominican Republic and St. Martin. But first, let's take a look at a stationery factory in Myanmar, where employees rush to finish their work early to learn about what they can do to help Japan. Hundreds of staff in the stationery factory in Myanmar are getting off work 3 hours early in order to participate in an event aimed at helping Japanese quake victims.
Some employees don't have TVs at home, so they can only learn about what is happening through us. Tzu Chi did a great job putting together a film for them to watch. Hopefully, when they see it, it will inspire them to goodness.
Real-life stories of the Japanese tsunami are told to students here at the Tzu Chi Educare Center in Malaysia.
In a tsunami like this, humans are like ants. When the big water hits us, are we able to escape?
With big hearts, children make donations using their own cherished savings. Meanwhile, children in the Tzu Chi Academy of Humanistic Studies in Toronto are also doing their part.
We need to help people, right? They don't have any food to eat or place to stay. They're not as fortunate as us.
Tzu Chi's Toronto branch is inviting residents from local communities to hold a charity sale. Today, the venue is sponsored by a shopping center website. Young and old alike are also taken to the streets to solicit money for Japan's quake victims. A fundraising campaign is taking place in a supermarket in St. Martin. In the Dominican Republic, donations are also pouring in. Knowing the amount they give, both together may make a difference in someone's life. Donators find themselves spiritually enriched by helping a meaningful cause.
Tzu Chi volunteers in Asuncion, Paraguay also launched a fundraising drive for Quake Hit Japan, collecting donations in commercial districts and bus stations. Among the canvassing volunteers was Miriam Infante Gonzalez, wife of Paraguay's former military attaché to Taiwan.
Standing in rows, students at this high school in Paraguay listened to a speech about Tzu Chi. Dressed in the Tzu Chi uniform as Miriam Infante Gonzalez, wife of Paraguay's former military attaché to Taiwan, she was also a former principal of this high school. In the aftermath of Taiwan's 8-day disaster in 2009, Miriam joined Tzu Chi's relief work in Pingtung County, helping with home visitations and cleanups. She continued the good work even after returning to Paraguay to call on more people to put their love into action. The earthquake in Japan brought volunteers to this high school, where they lead students in a heartfelt prayer for the victims. Great love has illustrated its boundlessness as students, shoppers, and pedestrians in Paraguay happily drop money into the collection boxes to help Japan rebuild.
The road to recovery for Japan following the recent 9.0 magnitude earthquake may take years. Love, however, is pouring in from around the world to help speed up that recovery. In Malaysia, many companies are contributing through Tzu Chi, hoping to do their part to ease the victims' suffering.
Everybody is the same, no matter what region you are grateful to help for that.
Thai, Japan, Malaysia, all people all around the world, we are human.
Speaking with great sincerity, staff at the Dell factory in Bayan Lepas, Malaysia, expressed their great sympathy for the Japanese amid their post-tsunami recovery. Dell's managing director, Simon Wong, invites Tzu Chi to come with their fundraising drive.
All mankind is the same, so we should treat each other with compassion and with love. So my intent is to bring this to the people in Dell so that they look at their job with a different perspective, that is, they should also be compassionate with each other, because what they do here also helps people.
In a short video, volunteers discuss the current situation in Japan and call on employees to lend a hand for Japan's quake victims. Taking a moment of silence to remember the lives taken by the tsunami, employees also send words of encouragement and cards.
We pray for the dead, we also pray for the injured and for those who are suffered and still suffering. We also pray for those who are safe around to help in the recovery. With love, stay strong together.
The March 11 massive earthquake.
Meanwhile, volunteers arrive at this industrial packaging company to solicit money for Japan. Regardless of language and religious differences, everyone digs deep into their pockets to donate.
The Japanese people work so hard and are very tenacious. I believe that they can make it through this time.
62-year-old He Qiguang is blind in both eyes, yet he clearly knows the degree of devastation that Japan faces.
I'm saddened to hear about the situation. I hope that people from all countries, Tzu Chi and disaster relief workers can together help Japan rebuild and get started on the road to recovery.
Together, the prayers and donations gathered will be greatly appreciated by the Japanese. In the face of natural disasters, as citizens of this world, we should help out one another with compassionate and pious hearts.
We stay in Malaysia for our next story to meet the boss of a successful restaurant in Penang, Mr. Tzu Chi. He and his family were in Japan when the quake struck and were lucky to survive unharmed. The experience changed the family.
On March 10th, Tzu Chi's family of 6 flew from Malaysia to Japan for another holiday. Setting off for Sendai on March 11th, at exactly 2:38 in the afternoon, they were at the station waiting for the train to Matsushima when the earthquake started. Mr. Zhu says a few minutes or even seconds later, and the entire family could have been dead.
If the earthquake had happened later, 1 minute or even a few seconds later, I would have gone down to another station and be on a platform that collapsed. Everything inside was destroyed. Life is really insignificant. I felt helpless. All I could was say Buddhist chants.
Tzu Chi is a successful businessman without a care in the world. Having made his fortune from fine food, it would have been impossible to persuade him to become a vegetarian. But after that close shave in Japan, when they safely returned home, he and his family decided to give up meat for a month.
I chanted Amitofo and we were okay. The 6 of us were so lucky to get out alive that I thought we should all become vegetarians and stop being cruel. In this business, it's all about food. We're fussy about what we eat. It had to be the best for us to eat it. If it wasn't the best, we won't touch it.
Eating vegetarian for a month was not easy for the 5 adults, but it was a snap for Tzu Chi's young nephew, who says 4 weeks is not enough.
I want to eat vegetarian for a year because I'm grateful for getting out alive. I don't think I will be tempted by meat because I want to save animals. I don't want them to be extinct so soon. I want to let the earth last longer. That way the end of the world won't come so soon.
Safe and sound back home, Tzu Chi's family is being visited by TzuChi volunteers today, who are here to calm their shattered nerves and tell them about TzuChi's international fundraising efforts and the campaign to make the world a kinder and gentler place. The 6 family members understand fully the situation for Japanese disaster victims. Apart from making an immediate donation, they decide to repent and change their habits of the past.
The 6 of us got out with our lives intact, so we're giving up bad things. We don't want to do that anymore, so we are repenting. Now we started to treat people and things more calmly and not lose our tempers.
I have to accept people and things, be understanding to my staff and family, and stop nitpicking with them. This is a rebirth, so I have to start over again afresh.
I want to change all my bad habits like being selfish and self-centered, just doing things for me. Now I do things for the public and think of other people's feelings.
In these days of frequent natural disasters, the Jews have decided to create some good karma by signing up to TzuChi's vegetarian campaign. In it together, the whole family is looking forward to a brighter and kinder tomorrow.
The Great Buddhist Monk Jianzhen is an animated movie made by Dai TV, which details Dharma Master Jianzhen's journey to Japan from China during the Tang Dynasty. The movie has made it over to the United States, and now we take you to its premiere in Cupertino, California, which attracted over 1,000 people to the first 3 screenings.
好紧张哦，期待开始表演，看第一场是什么感觉。
And thus the great Buddhist monk Jianzhen debuts in Cupertino, California. audience is taken back 1200 years to China's Tang Dynasty, where Master Jianzhen tried to reach Japan. After 5 failed attempts and despite losing his sight, the master finally prevailed on his 6th try. 3 screenings were held for the public, and audiences, both young and old, walked away inspired.
I'm encouraged to try out new things now and less afraid of failing.
I like it. Well, some of the monks stay alive, and I like that part the most.
The movie was really quite meaningful. Monk persevered a lot of difficult things to pursue his goal of teaching Buddhism to the Japanese. I think it was really a great movie.
The opening ceremony of the movie was performed by volunteers who practiced hard. Many of them are engineers working in Silicon Valley.
We extended invitations to many families, asking for fathers to come join us if they had the time. The response was overwhelming, which I thought was something.
Not only do the performers have to remember their moves, more importantly, they have to abstain from eating meat for a month.
It's the first time in my life that I was a vegetarian for such a long period. I feel I was more energetic during that time, so in the future, if I can, I think I will try to be a vegetarian as often as possible.
At first, I would worry about the weather and what to do if it rained, but then watching the 108 performers practice took away my worries. I knew that just by watching the opening ceremony, the audience would already be touched.
Not forgetting about the disaster in Japan, the show concludes with a prayer for the Japanese people. Focusing on gathering their goodwill, everyone learns to be less egocentric and more compassionate for a better world.
On this day, the 2nd of April, Danish author Hans Christian Andersen, the creator of The Ugly Duckling, The Little Mermaid, The Emperor's New Clothes, and 170 other fairy tales, was born on this day in 1805. To celebrate his global appeal, this day was made International Children's Storybook Day. The great Chinese artist of the 20th century, Zhang Daqian, was influenced by Picasso and introduced Western abstract art into Chinese traditional watercolors to produce stunning landscapes. Sadly, he died on this day in Taipei in 1983 at the age of 85. In his will, he left his entire collection to the National Palace Museum. The first non-Italian pontiff, Pope John Paul II, passed away on this day in 2005 at the grand old age of 84. During his office, Pope John Paul II travelled extensively, reforming the relationship with the Orthodox Church and working hard for religious tolerance, winning respect from around the world.
One of China's poorest provinces, Guizhou, has many children who are either orphaned or living with their grandparents, or even alone, because their parents are working away from home. TzuChi began its poverty alleviation program in Guizhou more than a decade ago. Recently, TzuChi volunteers dropped by several middle schools in the Luodian city area to award scholarships and check up on the children at home.
Students of Guizhou's Mingzhu Middle School are deeply grateful for the donations from far and wide brought to them by Tzu Chi that will help with their education.
We must be appreciative of the volunteers for their support all this time, make use of every minute to study hard as a way of repaying the volunteers' love.
Lining up to say their goodbyes to the visitors, as the pupils wave their hands, they are already anticipating their next meeting. Meanwhile, at Pingyuan Middle School, also in Luodian, the seeds of love are sprouting in the young minds. TzuChi volunteers have brought student aid to the pupils at Pingyuan to give them a more hopeful future. In addition to the scholarship distribution, volunteers also trek for more than an hour to visit the homes of the young recipients, delivering support and love to the young and old living hard but honest lives.
To help children understand the importance of protecting our environment, volunteers at TzuChi's Banqiao chapter taught a visiting class of kindergartners what can and cannot be recycled. On a similar note, parents and students of Da'an District experienced an action-packed day in the Bada recycling station.
Children from Da'an District are on a field trip today to experience something new. Here at Bada recycling station in Taipei, TzuChi volunteers are explaining what each recycled item is. Knowing the difference between needs and wants will help reduce unnecessary garbage. Apart from listening to the volunteers, students also make a contribution. Children and parents share what they have learned.
We should bring our own bags when shopping and bring our own water when we go out.
I was deeply moved. When I arrived, I saw many people older than myself here sorting recyclables. Through their explanations, we know how to better sort our recyclables.
Today is my first time coming in and actually doing something. Normally at home, we just separate the garbage. So what we think is enough isn't really enough to help the planet.
In Banqiao's TzuChi chapter, kindergarteners are here to learn what can and cannot be recycled. Plastic bottles are recyclable if there is a triangular or square logo on the bottom. Teaching children the importance of conservation work at a young age helps plant the seeds of love in their hearts that will blossom in the future.
At the end of today's program, we go to Malaysia's Penang, where a Catholic principal invited local TzuChi volunteers to her school to canvass donations for Japan disaster relief. That's all the time we have for. Thank you for watching TzuChi this week. Have a good weekend. Goodbye.